Warm greetings, everyone. On behalf of W4W Foundation, a think tank instituted as Citizen Collective, we welcome you to another session of Wednesdays for Water. We are also here to announce that we are starting season 5 today with this session after conducting our Water Fest at Mahakumbh, Prayagraj, Allahabad. The conversation today is on decision-making process of the Ken Betwa Link Project, and I am hoping that this is part 1 and there will be more discussion on this, which I'm very keen to, because this project is also going to set the tone for many rivers in the country. Before we start about the session, we would like to also take you through about Wednesdays for Water. The objective of Wednesdays for Water is to engage in conversation with water experts, grassroots practitioners, policy makers, and youth to explore the complex intertwined issues associated with water and the possible solutions that the experts and the enthusiasts really work towards. The Wednesday session has expanded since then to have more activities like the Friday Waters and the Monday Munching with Women for Water, besides organizing water workshops, water walks and talks, seminars, special courses, and conference panels to continue the water conversation in any possible way. At WforW, we believe that water conversations are crucial to move towards water conservation, and that is also our motto. Do visit our website www.wforw.in for more details. My name is Mansee Bhargava and I'm the host for the session from WforW. As we are discussing today the decision-making process of Ken Betwa Link Project, I'm really honored to have Himanshu Thakkar and Nikita De Cruz as speakers, and we have discussed in advance before we have this session. So probably Himanshu is going to discuss more on the policy making and the process of the project. And Nikita, who has worked on ground in this region, she'll bring some nuances of the people and the place. Ken Betwa is also, as you all know, probably the first in the series of number of interlinking project, river linking project, which is planned, and it is somehow kind of a political pet project now for quite a many years. And Himanshu is going to throw more light on this. What exactly is this? How it is really arrived to this kind of decisions and what is happening on the ground. Nikita is going to cover that. So before I invite each one of them, we will start with Himanshu, and just a quick line of introduction. Himanshu Thakkar is an engineer from Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai, and he works as coordinator of South Asia Network on Dams, Rivers, and People. He has been associated with water sector issues in India for over 3 decades now. He was in the past also a member of Ministry of the Water Resources Expert Committee on River Linking Project. So we cannot think of anybody better than him. And I'm also proud to say that it's a return for Himanshu on our platform, and he has spoken about river in the past also. So welcome, Himanshu. I give the floor to you for your opening remarks as well as your viewpoint on this entire project process.
Thank you, Mansee, and good evening, friends. I wanted to highlight some key decision-making process issues in the Ken Betwa Link project. I've divided this whole decision-making process into 8 or 9 sections. The first section is about feasibility. How was the decision made about the project feasibility? Second is about alternatives. Third was about community consent. Fourth, about wildlife clearance, environment clearance, forest clearance, land acquisition violations, which Nikita will possibly cover more in depth, judicial process, and lastly, issues related to impact of climate change. And I'll try and raise a few key issues on each of these 9 points of decision making, and hope we won't have time to elaborate in all of them in very great depth, but we will hopefully have question answer session. We can discuss it in more detail. We have been looking at this project for a pretty long time now. In 2002, this project really came to epitome in terms of the public attention. because of the then Prime Minister and President and others raising the issue. And in fact, very strangely, on October 31st, 2002, the then Chief Justice of Supreme Court of India directed the government of India a blanket direction that implement river linking project and complete it in 10 years. That, of course, fortunately did not happen. But in 2012, when those 10 years were to complete, another Supreme Court Chief Justice made another similar direction, asking the government to implement the river linking in next 10 years. Fortunately, that also didn't happen. We are in 2025, and now there is some movement in the first project, river linking, that is Ken Betwa Link, because somehow or the other, the government has pushed through the various processes of decision making, and the Prime Minister inaugurated the project in December 2024. So coming to the first issue of feasibility, the big question is whether water is available as claimed, whether Ken is surplus in water and Betwa is in deficit in water. The most important point in this context is that there is no data in public domain. The government says that we are saying there is a surplus water in Ken and there is deficit in Betwa, so you have to accept it. We can't put the data about hydrology in the public domain because it's a state secret. As a member of the expert committee on river linking appointed by the Ministry of Water Resources, I asked for the same data, and I was told you can't get even as a part of the ministry's expert committee. The second point is that this data has not also gone through any independent review. But whatever glimpses we have from here and there, the data, it seems very clear that this is a process of manipulation, somehow showing that Ken has a surplus water and Betwa has deficit. We had done analysis of the feasibility report of the project in 2005 and shown that how it's an exercise in manipulation. Interestingly, around that same time, 2005 and 8, the then collector of Panna district, where the project is situated, actually wrote to both the Principal Secretary of Water Resources in Madhya Pradesh and the Planning Commission, then Planning Commission, saying how, pointing out how there is no surplus in Ken. And she went on to say that Panna district is the least irrigated district among all the districts of Madhya Pradesh. And this project will give no benefit to Panna district, but on the contrary, take away water from Panna and upstream Ken districts and keep them permanently backward. It will be a disaster for the Bundelkhand. These were exactly her words in the letter that she wrote, about which we had made public. What we had said that this is an exercise in manipulation was also corroborated by the then Panna district collector. She actually, to quote her, I'm just quoting her, Panna district, one of the least irrigated districts of MP, is likely to remain permanently backward. Additional irrigation on Panna district is an afterthought. Ken has no surplus water, and Ken Betwa projects holds disastrous implications for the residents of Panna district as also from other districts of Ken River Basin. This is exactly what she wrote. Downstream from Madhya Pradesh is the Banda district of UP, which is majorly dependent on Ken River, and it will also face such a huge deficit and problems that at one time UP's Principal Secretary wrote in an affidavit to the Supreme Court of India saying that if this project goes ahead, there will be social unrest in UP. The Forest Advisory Committee also said it made a suggestion that it is suggested that a team of independent experts on surface water hydrology drawn from leading scientific institutions, I'm quoting FSC minutes, should have been requested to examine the hydrological aspects of Ken Betwa River. It never happened. It's clearly government has a lot to hide here. There is no real surplus in Ken. In fact, Ken Betwa link is sold as a solution to Bundelkhand's water problem. In reality, as the first sentence in the DPR of the project says, very first sentence is, the basic objective of Ken Betwa Link Project is to ensure water availability in Upper Betwa Basin. And Upper Betwa Basin is outside the Bundelkhand. What it means is that the Ken Betwa link is going to actually facilitate export of water from Bundelkhand to Upper Betwa Basin. So from a drought-prone area to area which is not drought-prone, but they need water. They want dams. They want to build dams. Now, why are they not able to build dams in Upper Betwa Basin? Well, there is water, but they say that if those dams planned in Upper Betwa Basin are built, then the Lower Betwa Basin, where there are Rajghat, Matatila, and some other dams, which are over-designed dams and which are irrigating that area, will not get the water they are not getting now getting. So because of the blunder of over-designed Lower Betwa dams, not getting the water that they are getting now for very water-intensive cropping pattern, this another blunder is designed so that the cane water can go to Lower Betwa while Upper Betwa can build those dams. And this is how the facilitation of the export of water will happen. Anyway, I have spoken enough about hydrology. About the alternatives, as even the Forest Advisory Committee and the Central Empowered Committee of the Supreme Court of India said about the project, there has been no assessment of alternatives. The then director of Panna Tiger Reserve, when he was first time asked to assess the project and give his recommendation, he said the whole project documents has no alternatives. It is a look at alternatives. So there has been no real assessment of alternatives at all. The third aspect is about the community consent. In a democratic country, one would expect that a project like this there will be made efforts to get community consent. In fact, as I told you, the discussion started in 2002, and now we are in 2025. So we had a lot of time to achieve this community consent by sharing information and asking people's opinions on. In fact, when I was member of expert committee of river linking, this is exactly what I suggested to the Ministry of Water Resources and NWDA, National Water Development Agency, that if think this project is really for the benefit of the Bundelkhand and the Ken Basin, then let us Ken and Betwa Basin, then let us do a simple exercise. Let us send a brief about the project proposed and ask a few questions about the possible alternatives and impacts and costs and benefits to all the panchayats, and let them hold gram sabhas, and then let them come with feedback about what they think about the project and its alternatives. And NWDA refused to do it. Ministry of Water Resources refused to do it. They said this is not our business. This is the job of this is not our job, and so they refused to do even that. So there was no community consent about that. Uh, as I already told you, this is the project about export of water. Coming to wildlife clearance. Again, this is an exercise in manipulation. First, there was a state by wildlife clearance. First, there was a approval of the Panna Tiger Reserve required. So director was asked to send his assessment, and the first director who gave his assessment opposed the project. He said this project should not go ahead. It will completely destroy Panna Tiger Reserve, and even the hydrology of the Ken River will be destroyed. That director was promptly transferred, and another was brought to give consent. Then the project went to State Board of Wildlife. State Board of Wildlife, again, there are only 2 or 3 independent members. They also opposed and a lot of asked questions. They were threatened and told to keep quiet. And the State Board of Wildlife, chaired by the Chief Minister, in the second meeting, first meeting there was opposition, so they couldn't clear it. But in the second meeting, they quietened, just asked the independent people to stop, and they cleared the project. Similar to the process in National Board of Wildlife, there was a lot of questions raised, and they had to set up a subcommittee, which visited the project area, and their report raised a lot of questions about the alternatives, about the hydrology, about the impact of the project on the Panna Tiger Reserve, on the vulture population in the Panna Tiger, in the Cane Gharial sanctuary downstream from the project, and a lot of those. But and but none of those questions were answered. They actually recommended reduction in height of the dam by 10 meters. And even that was brushed aside, saying that, they asked the NW and that in response to the suggestion, National Board of Wildlife asked a small committee of people from where? From Central Water Commission. Central Water Commission has been pushing the project, and that same agency was asked whether it is feasible to reduce the height of the dam. And they just gave a bland report saying that it is not possible. And based on that statement from the Central Water Commission, it was decided that it is not possible to reduce the height of the dam. But the most important part of the wildlife clearance comes from the report of the Central Empowered Committee. And this is a remarkable report, which I will recommend everyone to read that report. CEC report actually, because see, there is a section 35(6) of the Wildlife Act, which says that any part of the national park can be denotified, or any action can be taken related to denotification or any part of the national park only for the benefit of the wildlife and the national park. For no other purpose can any national park can be denotified. So using that section of the 35(6) of the Wildlife Act, a petition was filed in Supreme Court, and then Supreme Court directed the CEC to give a report. And CEC, based on its report, it held 5 public hearings, it went to the area, it talked to the project authorities, and based on it gave a report that NBWL should not have cleared the project. It is beyond its terms of reference. NBWL cannot clear a project for any other thing except benefiting. And this project cannot benefit. It's only destroying the Panna Tiger Reserve. It said that it's going to submerge 9,000 hectares of the most of them core area of the Panna Tiger Reserve. And in addition, 10,500 hectares of the Panna Tiger Reserve will get disconnected. And so on. It went on to, there is a wide divergence in the observations of the committee. And I can go on about the Central Empowered Committee. This is a remarkable report, so everyone should read it. I'm coming to the close of my 15 minutes time, but I'll just quickly look at the other things. Environment clearance, same thing. Firstly, the EIA agency had no expertise in EIA. In fact, when again I was the member of the expert committee on river linking, that EIA agency had made a presentation about the draft EIA report in 2009. And I had critiqued that report at that point and said that this agency is not qualified to do any such report. But it was very shocking. It was giving the EIA gives names of the species in Panna Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh, about species which are only found in Manipur. And why does it do that? Because it had done a EIA of the Dipaimo Dam project in Manipur, and it did cut and paste job from here, and it forgot to remove the references to Manipur species also. It made a very strong, very strange statement. It said that the Ken Betwa link will provide shortcut for the fish in the Ken River to the Yamuna River. Remember, imagine. So this is the kind of EIA it was. It didn't say anything about the impact on Panna Tiger Reserve, vulture population, on the downstream Ken Gharial sanctuary, on the geology of the whole area. Nothing. And nothing about violations and so on. So that was the EIA report. Public hearing were a lot of violations. Expert appraisal committee, in spite of all this, we wrote to them with a wide, we wrote several letters to expert appraisal committee, critiquing the project, critiquing the EIA, critiquing the public hearing, and also raising number of issues related to climate change and others. And ESE did not want to clear the project. During the 5 sittings that the ESE had, it did not clear the project. It kept asking for more questions. And it was Uma Bharti, the then Water Jal Shakti Ministry of the Government of India, actually publicly threatened the ESE. Publicly, that if it doesn't clear in the next meeting, the project is not clear, I will sit on dharna before the EAC. Imagine the union minister is threatening the regulatory committee of dharna. But finally, they didn't clear. EAC still did not clear, and they actually dissolved the EAC and reconstituted the EAC. And the reconstituted EAC was chaired by a former NWDA Director General. Imagine. I mean, our governance doesn't even understand conflict of interest. And you can see how there was manipulation at each step of the way. Similarly, there are manipulations in the forest clearance. Forest Advisory Committee actually said in its meeting, and I'm quoting them, the construction of the dam in site in Panna Tiger Reserve is not the best possible option for development of water resources in the drought-prone area of Bundelkhand, keeping in view the pristine forests of PTR and its rich biodiversity, and so on. It said that the project will lead to felling of 46 lakh trees, and it will completely destroy the Panna Tiger Reserve. It said the project should not be cleared. FSC has never written such words in actual minutes. But in this project, they wrote that the project should not be cleared. It also recommended reduction in height of the dam by 10 meters. The same exercise was followed. The CWC was told to give its opinion. It said that it's not possible, and that's all. But it gave clearance based on first in principle clearance was given in May 2017. It was based on conditions, number of conditions. One of the most important condition was that the power component of the project should be taken out of the forest area and protected area. And all the water inflow into the dam in non-monsoon months should be released downstream, and it should be ensured that environment flow in the river flows in the river till the Ken River meets Yamuna, not just for the just a symbolic value of releasing little water downstream of the dam, but it should be assured that the flow actually reaches the Yamuna River, through Ken. And it also said no mining should happen in the project, the forest area. All of these are getting violated. The project that the Prime Minister laid foundation of in the December 2024 actually has the same power component within the protected and forest area. Land acquisition, similarly, judicial process, as I already told you, there has been serious problems. There has been a number of issues related to impact of project on the climate change and the impact of climate change on the project. There has been report by even institutes like IIT Gandhinagar, which has said that the projects like Ken Betwa will no longer be viable because the rainfall pattern in Ken and Betwa basin are changing such that there will be no surplus in Ken and there will be no deficit in Betwa, even if it was supposed to be there, and so on. It will actually reduce the adaptation resources of the whole area, and it will also have impact in turn on the monsoon, because the fresh water flow that is now flowing will be stopped, and there will be change in the salinity and thermal gradient in the sea. So even Planning Commission has said that earlier. So these are the the key point I want to emphasize is that this project had no credible clearances at any stage, and at every stage the clearance was obtained through an exercise in manipulation. Sorry, I've taken a little more time, but we can go into more depth. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Himanshu. Please take some more minutes if you really want to cover a few more points. We are absolutely fine. It's always a pleasure to hear you and get more.
No, I've already taken more than 20 minutes. It's okay. We'll go to question answer.
Okay. Okay, so maybe you can clear a few more points while you are taking the questions and answers.
Sure.
I will now introduce Nikita to take things further and get some ground to think, and especially the little details of people and the place. Before I invite her, let me just do a quick introduction of Nikita De Cruz. Nikita is an activist and development professional with over 15 years of experience in community health, urban and rural governance, and youth leadership. For the past 7 years, she and a team of people have been working in forest tribal villages within the buffer zone of Panna Tiger Reserve, focusing primarily on women and children. However, the implementation of Ken Betwa River Link project threatens to displace all the villages they work in. As both an observer and active participant in the community, Nikita aims to shed light on the complexities and impact of this displacement on the affected communities. Thank you, Nikita, for agreeing to take this session with us. And also, it's really an honor to have someone as young as you and also hear something from the ground. I hope your voice is heard to the even the last mile and also the topmost policy field. Over to you, Nikita, and we look forward to hearing from you. And I think you are our first time speaker, so welcome also at WforW.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mansee. I hope I'm audible.
You are on.
Okay. So I just want to start by thanking Himanshu ji for this very, very layered, and it's actually a very complex issue. And I think it was there is need to explain such complex and difficult topics in a succinct way, and I think it was a pleasure to hear from him. While his perspective has been extremely like on a much larger level, right? The implications in terms of policy and government, I would like to zone in. Like Mansee spoke about my introduction, I have been working closely with 8 villages that will be currently will be displaced because of the Ken Betwa River Link project. They all come in the Panna district, in Panna district. So just to explain, there are two sets of communities that will be displaced because of this project. Some villages are in Chhatarpur and some are in Panna. The ones that are in Chhatarpur will be displaced in terms of, it's called direct displacement. Matlab, those villages will come under the submerged area. So that land and those villages will be displaced because that area won't exist. It'll be underwater, and the communities in Panna are being displaced uh, because because such a big part of the government of forest land is being submerged. The revenue department had to give a similar amount of land to the forest department, where the new core area, as they are saying, will be created. So for that, many villages of the inside the buffer zone of the which are currently in the buffer zone of the Panna Tiger Reserve, they will be displaced. So I work in this. I have been working in this area, and over the last few years, we've been hearing the words displacement over and over again. So I will only focus on what we have been hearing from the community in this process. So I just want to start by, I agree, I completely want to add to what Himanshu ji said about the community that are most vulnerable and the communities that are actually facing displacement, their voices are the least heard. It is the same with these villages. Starting with the notices that were given as to when they need to relocate, what is happening in the area. So all that information has been very confusing and it has not followed due procedure at all. Understanding that these villages are forest villages, which are predominantly Adivasi forest villages. This community is also one that is fairly vulnerable. Their entire ecosystem depends, their entire livelihood and lives have been in the forest and they're dependent on the forest for many things. That being said, in terms of consent, in terms of explaining due process, keep displacement. I'm going to switch between Hindi and English. I hope that's fine. If somebody has an issue, you can let me know. अगर like starting with कब निकलना है, फिर कैसे निकलना है, compensation का क्या process है, none of this has been clearly stated in the community. So imagine 8 villages who don't know when they will be displaced right now. They know displacement is happening. They understand that the government at some point will tell them now you have to leave, but there is no proper timeline or plan in place for these communities. Himanshu ji also mentioned ki who's getting benefited from this process. So I would also like to highlight that issue that uh, the government has or the project states that many people will be benefited from the Ken Betwa river linking. But that is an estimate, and many experts have actually refuted this claim that this is not going to happen. But on the other hand, the people who are being displaced, at least these 8 villages that I know of, about 4,500 people, their lives are, for them, this displacement is very real. It is not some estimate that we are looking at. So, how do you decide which community should bear the brunt for which communities? Uh, future and uh, development. So which area gets developed at the sake of whose, life and livelihood and generation being ruptured and taken away from the only ecosystem that they probably have understood and thrive in. So that was one of the points I wanted to raise. In terms of compensation, there are three kinds of compensation that the community is going to receive. One is for the land that they have pattas for or they have documents for. Secondly, the assets that they have, which includes their house or maybe a well or water pump or trees in their area. And the third is the special package that has been given, that has been calculated and will be given to each household. So I'll talk about each of these three things. In terms of land, the valuation of the land is 5 lakhs per acre. That itself raises many complications. While 5 lakhs sounds like a big number because in our head we might assume that, okay, one community might have 4 or 5 acres of land. If you think of, like, if that's what is coming to your mind, this is probably not the case, because for a lot of these people, they do not have land titles for maybe half the land or 40-50% of the land that they are cultivating. It is also part of the culture and the way a community functions. So in a जहाँ पे forest communities है, they cultivate land, like they use whatever land they have and they cultivate it. Documentation is not necessarily a very big part, or like, getting all your documents in place. It may not always be part of that, not part of the culture. In fact, these communities have been there before documents existed. So how do you really track वो कहाँ से आए हैं, वो कितने साल से वहां रह रहे हैं, उनकी कितनी generation? Only probably what they are saying. So on average, every household might be getting maybe 1 or 1.5 acre, maybe 2. And there are many houses that have no documents for any of the land, which means that uh, a large number of these households will be left with not a lot of money to actually go out and buy land in the next area that they settle in. That being said, 5 acres is a small amount. So even those who are receiving compensation, actually Panna ke, when you come out of the forest areas, the mainland mein jo land is around 8 lakhs or 10 lakhs. So how do you now regenerate your life and livelihood based on what compensation you're getting? So these are some of the initial complexities of the land that I wanted to highlight. I also wanted to say that a lot of the money and the compensation that's being decided is going into the accounts of the male members of the area. There is no process to ensure that maybe the family members equally get the money, or women should also get some of the money. So essentially, there is a lot of divide being created in terms of gender as well, because only one person is getting the money that is earmarked for an entire household. So none of this really has been thought out in terms of जब compensation बांटते हैं तो किसको बांटते हैं और कितना बांटते हैं. So that is one more thing I wanted to raise. Even for the people who have received land compensations, again, the right kind of documents are required. You have to have exactly the same name on many of your documents, which anybody who's working in the grassroots would know. A lot of times this is not the case. Documents are not similar, names are different. So a lot of people are really stuck. पैसा आना है but पैसा आया नहीं है. So that is how complex the situation is. And honestly, the role of the project should have been to guide people better, to help each and every individual get the compensation they deserve. But right now, this is far from it. Like, information deficit hai, to support is also very, very, like, it's absolutely not part of the picture. Assets also, like, when somebody comes to evaluate your assets, right? Firstly, like, how do you evaluate somebody's assets? So a lot of times, if the person is not at home but their house is being measured, they may or may not include every aspect of that house. They will not have if they're not having a conversation with the person. So a lot of them actually are now raising complaints saying that our houses are not evaluated correctly, or our trees are not evaluated correctly. So every aspect of this compensation process has been extremely tedious for the community. Lastly, package. So the package has been decided at 12.5 lakhs per household. And if there is a boy like a boy in the family who's above the age of 18 and unmarried, they will also get a package. Earlier, they were saying the girls will also get it, but again, there is a lot of confusion now कि सिर्फ लड़कों को मिलेगा या लड़कियों को भी मिलेगा, and that is one of the biggest asks of the community. So wherever the community has asked for, their rights, they have asked for equal compensation for boys and girls. But in the midst of all of this chaos, there is no clear answer to these questions. I also feel like it's also a region that doesn't have a lot of civil society. Matlab, there are not a lot of NGOs also working in this area. So what happens is, oftentimes in other places where there is a strong community presence, there are, I guess, better ways to collectivize people. There are better ways to reach their voice to the government. But that is not happening here. If you look at news report articles, they will talk about the wildlife, the effect on the wildlife. They will talk about the effect on uh, the vulture habitat, the tiger habitat, the environmental disaster. Uh, but no, but even if you look at articles, there are just one or two articles that are talking about the people involved in the process. Uh, we are still in the middle of it. We are looking. We also get a chance to kind of hear different things from the community. So these are the challenges majorly. I think, yeah, I wanted to add one more thing, that the project does not provide for reallocation. So the communities are and the families are being given money, but they are not being told ki you can now relocate to this village or you can relocate to this area. What happens in this situation is that and the communities are also feeling this is, where do we go? Even if you ask us to leave, can you point us in the direction of where we should go and stay or rehabilitate ourselves? In the next 10 years, whenever this rehabilitation happens or displacement happens, there will be so many people who are moving in clusters, joining other villages. So how do you account for their rights? कि उनके services, government services उनको कैसे मिलेंगे? How will you track these people, right? So there is not doesn't look like a lot of effort is being put in this space as well. So yeah, these are the things I wanted to shed light on, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Nikita. I was wondering if you wanted to present the document which you really shared with me. It is a good document to be shown, but I just leave it to you. Are you still planning to present the document, or we can?
We can share it, but I've actually spoken my piece. If you, I can, we can just go through the document if you think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, or you can share the link in the chat box, because I thought while you were speaking, you will share the screen, but that's fine. So I can share the document, or
Yes.
you can share the document in the chat box. We can start the question and answer session. And I open the floor to all the participants to engage, because at Wednesdays for Water, our strength has been to have the conversation flowing and not have a monologue from the speakers. So just to warm it up, I will start with some of my observations from both the speakers and the project, which I have been also closely following, but not, unfortunately, not writing about it. And also encourage all the participants to really post their questions and comments in the chat box, or simply raise your digital hand. That works. I think the interlinking project has been a bone of contention for quite some time, but the way Himanshu presented those points, I'm just curious to ask a very simple, naive question. As a citizen of this country, is the project mentioning, Himanshu, who is actually benefiting? Because I mean, I'm picking a line from Nikita and both of you, that there will be people who will benefit. I can understand if there is a line or some aspects written that the economy will benefit, energy will be produced. But in terms of people, is there any mention, like the 8 villages Nikita mentions? At least I don't see they are benefiting, to be honest. But is there any mention that who are the people who are benefiting? Himanshu?
Yeah, there are claims. As usual, there are claims about all projects. So they are saying there will be areas in, now they have added as an afterthought, Panna district also will benefit, then Chhatarpur, Tikamgarh, and number of districts of UP, Jhansi, Hamirpur, Banda, all of this and a few others. I have not gone into the benefits issue because with a number of question marks there, some of those areas are already getting irrigated. So how is it going to help? Maybe they'll get little more water. Uh, and some of the areas there is so much spread of the benefits. There's a big question mark about the feasibility of all of those benefits coming in. As far as the power component is concerned, I told you the power component should be actually scrapped according to the Forest Advisory Committee conditions of clearance. But they have not done that. So let us see what is going to happen about that. Uh, so they are saying that there will be so many lakhs of people will get drinking water, so many lakhs will get irrigation, and blah blah blah. So that is usual. That's always there. Yeah.
That's a general mathematics. I think we have been using since the dam projects emerged in the country.
Yeah.
This much amount of water and that much amount of people, and this much
Yeah.
amount of water, that much amount of land and irrigation, and so on and so forth. But not really going in depth. But we have a exact number at least for 8 villages, as we just heard from Nikita, and I'm sure there are more villages also. I want to bring a strong video which I observed from Bastar, and the documentary film was showing a very strong observation from the tribal person whose land was taken on a gunpoint kind of situation. As the way Nikita also presented in a nice way, I'm just using the word on a gunpoint because the uncertainty, the package, and everything is almost like you have to go, but we really don't have much to offer, but you will get 12 lakhs or 5 lakhs. So this man in that Bastar village got 40 lakhs, and the journalist was asking them questions, and the man was so clear in his head that, see, it's okay that I get 40 lakhs, but 40 lakhs I can spend in my own lifetime. But the land which I have in the forest has been given to me by generations before me and will be with the generations after me. So in that sense, is 40 lakhs enough? And at that time, my house was my forest. And now they have given me a small house of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana of some square meters, 25, 28 meters. I can't even put all my family members into the house, including my cattle. So this was a very clear indication that the indigenous people know that they are not the direct beneficiaries of the project. So I just want to bring this highlight because it really touched my heart that sometimes we think that development is brought to the indigenous people in the forest and all, thinking that they are the beneficiaries. It is more of a grabbing of resources and grabbing of rights in that sense, I feel. And what strikes me more is when Himanshu, you were presenting that almost all the departments, all the aspects which you have highlighted, there was almost a no to the project. So in that sense, there is a politicization of the project. It's more like a dream project than really a development project per se as well. What's your take on this? How far can we politicize these kind of projects for the sake of aspiration of the country? I mean, what is the country made up of? If is it the aspiration of only the politicians, or for whom? For whom is the project? For me, is always the question. How far can we politicize this kind of projects? I mean, de-damming has already started in the world.
Well, see, firstly, I think we should be careful about the words we use. When you say dream project, it gives a very positive connotation.
Yes.
I will say it's a nightmare project, actually.
But so that's how it has been rhetoric or promoted.
Yeah, but we have to be careful in using that. Yes. So it's basically a nightmarish project. Now, I was actually sitting across the table before the then Secretary Ministry of Water Resources of Government of India. And he is the highest bureaucrat, So I was telling him that this project is going to destroy Panna Tiger Reserve, it's going to destroy Bundelkhand, it's going to destroy the downstream Banda, it's not going to benefit Bundelkhand. So why is your ministry pushing this project? He said, his reply was just one sentence. He said, Himanshu, this is 20,000 crore question. At that time, the cost was 20,000 crores. Now it is 45,000 crores. We all know it's the political economy of these big dams in India. There is no accountability. 45,000 bol diya to 45,000 hoga. it's going to increase only, not come down.
Not
And
come down.
where does that money go? Pata nahi abhi. So, and
I
we all
think
know
that's
very political. There is always a political kickbacks
Mm.
from big dams and big hydropower projects and so on. So there is a political economy around that, and so there are benefits, beneficiaries.
That's I was about to
The
interject
contractors
here.
and the
There are
consultants, yeah,
beneficiaries.
yeah, there are contractors and cement and steel and machinery and consultants, and there are a lot of benefits. I mean, but not to be too cynical. I mean, this is how unfortunately, our governance happens actually, So, fundamental question don't get asked. Uh, and so the politicians are able to get away with all these kind of projects.
Rohan, we'll take you, and then we will move to Kshitij for next question. Rohan, please unmute yourself, and you may also mention who would you like to take the question.
Yes, hi, good evening. Thank you for hosting this talk. Thank you, Himanshu sir and Nikita as well. So I just wanted to make a point, and Himanshu sir, maybe you could shed some light on this, because the question asked here being, who are the beneficiaries? What I understand, as you said, the concrete and cement that's going to go into that 220-kilometer canal and the dam is obviously going to benefit the cement companies. We know some of those who are the big companies in that regard. But I also understand that Singrauli, which is not too far away, already has some super thermal power plants. And there's another one coming up by Mr. Adani. I think it's about 2,500 megawatts. Now, my understanding is these thermal power plants require a lot of water, and I'm not sure, given the proximity of this project, that some of that water could also be used for that. So I'm not sure, Himanshu sir, if you've come across any information regarding this.
So from whatever official information we have so far, there is no provision from this project to give water to any of the thermal or nuclear power station. But I remember a friend of mine telling me when we were working fighting against Narmada project, that he said that unmistakably every big dam in India was not planned to benefit thermal and nuclear power station, but every one of them has ended up benefiting, giving water to urban areas, industries, and such projects. Every one of them. You take Sardar Sarovar in Gujarat, you take any other dam. So this ends up happening, and it's likely to happen in this project also.
Interesting.
Right.
Kshitij, your question is there in the chat box. Maybe we can invite Nikita to take that question. Kshitij, are you still around? Can you see the question?
Am I audible?
Nikita? Yes, you are audible. Go ahead.
So, good afternoon. My name is Kshitij. I am a student of Landscape Architecture, Masters at School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal. So, my question is that uh, these are distinct riverine systems. Their entire systems consisting of species and habitats and ecosystems that have distinct abiotic and biotic components. So, how will this project impact these components? Will it completely destroy them?
Well, let me just briefly say a few things, then Nikita can take over. So basically, see, a river is a connected entity. By definition, river has connectivities. Longitudinal connectivities, upstream, downstream, lateral connectivity with the floodplain and tributaries, and the vertical connectivity with the groundwater. Now, this project is obviously going to disrupt that connectivity. Firstly, because of the dam, there will be whole submergence area, which will be a stagnant water in the upstream. And downstream, there will be practically no water. Environment flows are not even quantified. And actually, environment flow, if you want to achieve, then you should be releasing water in a way so that the connectivity is continued. In such a way, environment flow should be released so that the water, that environment flow provides the connectivity between upstream and downstream. but that's not going to happen. It's not happening in any dam in India. So that is going to be destroyed. So upstream is going to be, so as far as biodiversity is concerned, there will be huge impact in the downstream and upstream. Similarly, as far as the silt flow from the dam downstream is concerned, it will be totally stopped. And if you look at if you read the CEC report, you will find lot many other aspects about how post monsoon the water reservoir will be full immediately post monsoon, and then it will come down, but it will come down only to 240 meters. And so there will be a dead water below 240 meters, and that is the real plain area, grassland, which is the access, which is which is very important for the biodiversity in the Panna Tiger Reserve to access to. Similarly, there are geological features of the Ken River, both in upstream in the submergence area and downstream. Downstream, just little downstream, there is Rane Falls, which I have seen. I mean, it's unimaginable. Whoever has not seen should go and see that area. It's like a mini Niagara Falls or like a mini Grand Canyon of USA. It's so beautiful, majestic, and that place is going to be totally destroyed. Similarly, in the upstream, there are such geological features. There are caves. Now, just in Chhatarpur, the FSC refused forest clearance to a project, diamond mining project, because there are 25,000-year-old cave paintings found in that area. But there are similar cave paintings found in this area also, but they have not been investigated. So, a lot of things we are going to lose in the process of the submergence and destruction due to this project. Yeah. There will be a lot more in terms of the species. The Mansee is going to be destroyed. There will be vultures. So Mansee is like is the top of the food chain in the water. Tiger is the top of food chain in terrestrial biodiversity. The vultures is top of the food chain in avian biodiversity. And gharial downstream is again top of the food chain in the water biodiversity. So all of those top of the food chain will be destroyed, and with that you can imagine the downstream impacts. Yeah. So there will be a lot of impacts, which most of them have not been even properly assessed.
Nikita, would you like to add something here?
No, I think Himanshuji has given a very detailed answer. I mean, I'm coming from what he said in the end, which is I don't think the entire level of destruction has even been attempted to be assessed. So I think as much as we can preempt this disaster, there will be more disaster. Right from trying to extend the core area and expecting the tigers to, I mean, there are a lot of internal conversations we have where we're like, how do you imagine recreating a space that was few years ago given the title of a biosphere, which is a very rare thing in this world. And Panna was one of the, at then there were only 25 places. So Panna got recognized as a very unique biosphere. So how do you recreate that? So we have no idea the extent of the disaster. So that's the extent of what even I understand on this topic.
So there is something very concerning here. On one hand, we are talking about the displacement of people. And we have been seeing dam after dam after dam since the dams have been built in India. And even those people who manage to stay around the dam areas and the upstream and downstream, actually, they are not the ones beneficiary. But if the project is Anthropocene and there are people who are going to benefit, and there are a set of people who are going to displace. And if we are not taking all of them into account, I see that we are still very far from taking into account the displacement of the other species. As Himanshu already mentioned, the top of the, of the life cycle of different zones. So I'm just wondering, all tigers cannot be brought to Jamnagar Zoo. So where are these tigers going to go? Is there any plan for it? Because now that the project is green signaled, now that there is a pressure, now that there is almost no information, so there, I mean, you rightly pointed out the information deficit from other deficits. Do we have any plan to, I mean, I know that we don't have plan where these people will go. I mean, giving them a handful of money is not enough for them to decide where they are going to start their life in terms of rehabilitation, because it's not only getting a piece of land or house, but still I'm imagining, okay, people will find their way. But then if it is a matter of tigers, if it is matter of vultures, if it is matter of other creatures, we have to find their way for them, not that they will, of course, they can also find it by themselves. But is there any plan now that the project is finalized that, okay, we will create a compensation, blah, 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 somewhere? I mean, it's very funny when ministers stand up and say that here the development is going to be done, and there in Andaman Nicobar, 25 lakh trees will be planted. I mean, something like this is also happening in the country. Is there any plan for tigers to go somewhere?
So, I mean, actually, for a larger wildlife, there should have been an assessment and plan, but there is no assessment. As far as tiger is concerned, one is, of course, one part is what Nikita was saying, Panna Tiger Reserve, and they are going to have compensatory afforestation from non-forest area. And the forest department had insisted that the compensatory area has to be contiguous with the current remaining Panna Tiger Reserve. And that's why they took land from that area. Earlier, they were trying to, as they do, they were, giving small parcels of land spread all over, saying that we don't have land contiguous and so on. But Forest Department insisted we will not accept any other land. We will. So, and there is also WII, Wildlife Institute of India, was given some 7 crores or maybe more to prepare a landscape development plan for the whole landscape in that area. And one of the, as far as the tigers are concerned, they are going to connect with the 3 sanctuaries around in that area. One is in UP, 2 in MP. I have the name somewhere. I can give it later on. I don't remember. One is Nani Dev, Ranipur, and some third one. And they are about 102, 105, and 75 kilometers away from the outside boundary of the Panna Tiger Reserve. But the CC report has very clearly said that there is no path, because it's all agricultural area. So there is no path for the tiger from these 3 sanctuaries to be connected with the Panna Tiger Reserve. So there is a big question mark of the feasibility of the whole plan. But somebody who is more expert in wildlife can answer that question. Yeah.
Definitely, and that is, I think we were discussing when we were originally going to have this session on 12th of Jan, that we should have a follow-up session on at least talking about the wildlife or the impact on biodiversity of this project. See, I mean, what I can gather from the discussion so far is one thing is the water per se. Then there are people. Then there are a set of other creatures. I think if in these 3 major, I believe the component of the project can be put forth to into the public domain, I think at least we can educate ourselves. I know we are now living in a situation in the country where we cannot question, but at least educating oneself is also a start to really understanding where are we going wrong. Because after all, we have to answer to the future generation as well. I mean, if not to the biodiversity and other creatures. So, I mean, I'm just curious, because the information of the whole project is not that explicit in the public domain. Himanshu, where, I mean, this will be also my last question for the session today. Where are we heading towards making information available for these large public projects, nightmarish projects or dream projects of politicians, for people to educate themselves what's going on in my country? I mean, I cannot just keep thinking that I'm going to become a 5 trillion, 30 trillion economy without knowing what's actually going to cost me to come to that situation. At least these kind of projects where everyone is impacted. It's not about how much money comes to my pocket, because most of the beneficiaries are the educated people who are writing these proposals, who are writing these projects, who are implementing these projects. So still, I think I mean, the system owes information sharing with the country. Where are we heading for with these large projects? कुछ भी project बन जाएगा, हमारे सिर पे आ जाएगा. अहमदाबाद रिवर फ्रंट 700 करोड़ से शुरू होकर 1400 में खत्म हुआ, उसमें से 10% भी रिकवरी नहीं हुआ. जस्ट अर्बन रिवर फ्रंट में रिकवरी नहीं हुआ, पैसे का रिकवरी. फॉरगेट अबाउट बायोडाइवर्सिटी एंड डिस्प्लेसमेंट.
So, I mean, see, as I told you, even during 2008-9, I had told the project developers and the ministry to exactly do this. That I told them, let us share whatever project information you have, share with every Gram Sabha with a set of questions and let them come back with it. This will be a great public education
Absolutely.
process where people will be involved. There will be transparency, there will be better participatory development, and possibly of some question mark and alternatives will come out. But they refuse to do that. And this is how our governance is. Our governance does not believe in sharing information. I mean, take the hydrology. Why is hydrology not in public domain? And without hydrology,
Yes.
how can you have decided whether the project is feasible, whether the cane is
Absolutely.
surplus and Betwa is deficit? And your own collector, Panna Tiger Reserve, Panna district collector is saying there is no surplus. And all the information available shows there is no surplus. And if the project goes ahead as it is likely to, the upstream upper cane basin will remain permanently backward. It's very least dedicated area and it's not going to get more irrigation because once the project come up, even if you go and build check dam, they will say that, oh, if you do the check dam, you will reduce the water available to the dam. So even check dams or desilting of ponds, etc., will also not allow. This already happened in number of dams in India. So this is the situation. Information sharing is concerned. And biodiversity also similarly, you look at the EIA, it is such a shoddy piece of document. Look at the Wildlife Institute of India should have shared this thing in public domain. They have not, they have done the project. In fact, there was a conflict of interest there also. The expert appraisal committee, which gave this task to Wildlife Institute of India, had a member from WIA sitting there. So the regulator person, and he is himself avoiding contract to his own organization, sitting there. And WIA ultimately is a government organization run by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So it is going to bound to toe the Sarkari line. That's what it did ultimately.
Of course.
So this is the situation about the information sharing is very problematic in India. For exactly this purpose, in 2017-18, we organized the Ken River Yatra. Ken River is a 427-kilometer long river. And we, somebody from Sandra, our organization, and somebody from Veditam, that is Siddharth Agrawal, walked entire length of the river from where the Ken meets Yamuna, upstream to the origin of Ken. They totally walked 600 kilometers, spread over 3 phases. And one of the key objectives of that yatra was to understand from people how do they see the river, how do they see the project, what do they know about the project. And very shockingly, almost nobody had accurate information about the project. They thought that, oh, अच्छा केन बेतवा का प्रोजेक्ट हो रहा है तो इसका मतलब है बेतवा से पानी हमको मिलेगा. Why? Because Betwa is a bigger river they know and Ken is a smaller river. So when you link the two rivers, you think that the bigger river will give water to smaller river. And that's what they were thinking. And this is the information they had in 2017-18 when environment clearance was over, EIA was over, public hearing was over, everything was over. And there's no sharing the information with the people. Similarly, they thought that it's going to help them reduce the flood, this thing. So that's not an objective anyway. So this is the kind of information availability in the public domain. This is the attitude of the official agencies as far as sharing information is concerned.
We'll take quickly a point which has come out very interestingly from Himraj Dang. Himraj, would you like to add something here? The wildlife is now benefited by the dam. Nothing more is needed for wildlife. And also he has shared the names of the 3 sanctuaries. So Nikita, would you like to add something here? I hope.
Himraj, would you like to add maybe to your question and then you could answer it?
I didn't have a question. I was just answering
Okay,
Manseeji's question, that what is the thinking about wildlife? What is the thinking about tiger? There is actually no thinking that I know of because I follow the wildlife perspective for wildlife for tiger because they have made or they think they have made a very clear case that the wildlife is benefited by the dam. They say in various places that the wildlife will actually move to higher areas there'll be more water available also, and there'll be now also the prospect of gardens and the prospect of fish cultivation, which will take place inside the dam, which by the way is illegal inside a national park. So with such statements, since they have managed to squeeze through that Wildlife Protection Act clause, which Himanshu mentioned, they don't feel the need to defend the case for wildlife. Vultures and gharial, of course, are actually, and even the Rane Falls and the sanctuary there have been ignored in the EIA. So actually, from a wildlife perspective, which was obviously most well brought out by Mr. Murthy, the ex-park director, whom Himanshu mentioned, the wildlife, there is actually no response to the wildlife other than an assumption that you better believe that the dam is a benefit for wildlife.
Wow, interesting, Himaraj.
And
I'm
incidentally, CEC
Go ahead.
report has punctured this argument totally. That's going to benefit wildlife. They would just blow by blow shown that how that is wrong argument. Yeah, Nikita, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Nikita.
No, I was just thinking about how ridiculous that statement is that, something will benefit wildlife, because and you mentioned Mr. Moti, and I think I followed a little bit of Panna Tiger Reserve's history. It has taken so much effort, and anyone on this call wants to really go and look at it. It has taken a lot of time, effort, resources to create this tiger reserve. Because in 2000 there were no like the tiger numbers had dropped, and from there we've really, like, through forest officials and community consent and different laws and policies and rehabilitations have happened even then. Like how much goes into creating and maintaining, and like for a flourishing tiger reserve to actually exist, and now to imagine that nothing has been considered, it is shocking. I find it really hard, even on a day-to-day basis, to come to terms with the fact that they have not thought even a little bit about where all these tigers will go.
Maybe Jamnagar will adopt some, and others. Maybe you and I can also apply for adoption. It's a very bad joke, though. But I'm just really shocked to learn from Himanshu that almost all expert reports in the last 20 years of this project being playing around, there have been no approvals, and still we want to go ahead with the project as a country, as a system or society or maybe politics. And that's very disheartening and discouraging. I mean, not only for the project itself, but I feel it's very discouraging for a democracy as such. I mean, if we are not on board, if the people who are going to be displaced are not on board, I mean, it is not a democratic process of doing dams, or a dam. So, I mean, I just want to leave you all with a question, and this is just one of the 30 linking projects which we are planning. And are we planning our disaster systematically? I mean, we have to ask questions to ourselves. And mind you, these kind of big projects are not done by someone who is unaware of it. I mean, the whole sanitization of politics, I mean, very subtly put by Himanshu, how the project approval or evaluation or appraisal, EIA, is done by the people who are from the committee who are offering the projects. I'm just wondering how systematically we can go far in this whole process of, I will say, not the development of the society, but probably more disaster of the society. And I really encourage to bring forth the second session of this conversation. And I see him, Raj, if you can be really kind enough to come on board. Maybe we can have one follow-up discussion on this, and particularly highlighting the displacement. Who is displaced? I mean, taking both the people and the other species. I mean, humans are also one of the species. What happens to displacement will be a good discussion to happen, because we already learned from Himanshu, even in the water sector, it is not going to make any big wonders, as none of the dams have made those big wonders as expected. Probably energy sector, as also Himanshu mentioned, that eventually they end up making energy out of the dam. So let's see what is there in store. But I think it's a warning and alarm for all the younger generation when they engage in these kind of projects to really bring in their conscience on board into sanitizing the politics when they really sit through and make these projects happen despite knowing that this is not a project to happen. With these words, I would like to thank Himanshu and Nikita for their time and also engaging in this good conversation. The subject is not good, the situation is not good, the impact is not good, but at least the conversation is happening, which I think is very much required even on the ground. As Himanshu was saying, a simple survey on the ground could have at least got people on board and probably had more alternate options to look at the project in different ways. So at least at W4W, we can try to do these little things, if not change the entire society, but at least get ourselves more educated towards it. I would like to announce the next session. This week, we have also Friday Water's Thesis Club session on 14th of January at 5 p.m. IST, which is our routine time to have the water conversations. This week, Friday, we are talking about Ganga to Teesta, the state of bilateral ties between India and Bangladesh, a transboundary water case. And we have a PhD scholar, which we invite at the Thesis Club, Anup Kumar Shaha, and he is going to unpack this whole idea of Ganga to Teesta. So do keep tuned to the W4W conversations. We have crossed more than 325 sessions. We are super proud, as well as we are super concerned about the state of water matters in the country. And that is where we feel least we can do is have the water conversations flowing towards water conservation and educate ourselves so that at least we are in a position to even identify where are we going wrong if we are not going right. Thank you so much, Himanshu and Nikita, and all the participants who have been joining us for the last more than 300 sessions, to supporting us and encouraging us to continue this conversation. Do keep checking www.w4w.in for more details. And we bring to you more conversations. And Nikita and Himanshu, you are going to help me get the second round of this session on displacement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.